Sorry, let me just wait a second and I'll get this screen reset. So yes, let's look at the official results for the sprint race because as you know, there were multiple time penalties, and this is going to take a bit of a tooth pick through this of a toothpick. Norris, Piastri, and Hamilton remain on the podium. Russell takes fourth. With another driver, I think Albon losing fourth place with that time penalty. 5-second time penalty for Albon. That drops him out of the points. Stroll promoted to fifth. Thank you for the like, whoever you want. Tsunoda sixth. Antonelli. Antonelli takes seventh, scoring points in a sprint race where he had to pit twice because he was unable to pit because he had to avoid Max Verstappen making an unsafe release, and he had to avoid pitting because otherwise he would have ran into his own mechanics. So, in a sense, I think that's a fair result for Antonelli because he was essentially deprived of any points because of what happened with Max. And Gasly manages to score a point, which, considering he qualified down in 18th for the actual official race, I think that's a fairly good return as well. And it looks like Tsunoda's gamble paid off handsomely, having had to start down in 20th and last place after struggling in sprint qualifying. And as for the drivers who got penalised, there's a long list. 5-second pen for Albon, 5-second penalty for Lawson. I presume that's for colliding with Alonso and bringing out the safety car. 5-second pen for Behrman. So that means, I don't know, I don't think. And of course, yeah, the massive 10-second penalty that Verstappen picked up. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, that does not change the championship order with, of course, Oscar Piastri still the championship leader and Norris remains second. I think Verstappen remains third for now, but pole position is Max Verstappen with a 26.2. Once again, out qualifying both McLarens. This is the race order. But was like, yeah, Peter, all the penalties, 5-second pens, safety car infringement for Albon, colliding with Alonso, and of course, Behrman also got a 5-second pen for an unsafe release. And, Behrman actually got off a bit lightly, but I presume that's because the stewards saw Kimi Antonelli having to avoiding action to avoid hitting mechanics in the pit lane, which was very good reactions from Kimi Antonelli, who in the end got rewarded despite having to pit twice through no fault of his own. I mean, yes, obviously he made a bad start, overshooting turn one and costing himself a chance of a win. I don't know, mate. I don't know. I think the problem with Lando Norris is his racecraft and his mentality is not there. Final season for Renault as an engine supplier for Alpine as they plan to discontinue their engine production post-2025. Here's the championship standings. Oscar remains in front. Norris, Verstappen, like I said. It does not change the number of points they have. 106 for Piastri, 97 for Norris, and 87 for Verstappen. So despite the penalty in the race, Verstappen still remains in the championship hunt. 78 points for Russell, who, despite not winning a race, has been super consistent and remains in touching distance of the two McLaren drivers and Verstappen. And Leclerc will be kicking himself for crashing out on the sprint lap, because obviously Hamilton got on the podium for the sprint race. So, having said that, Charles Leclerc is only on 47 points, so let's face it, he's not really in a championship hunt right now, is he? He did get his and Ferrari's first official podium of the season at Saudi Arabia. Of course, Lewis Hamilton's sprint race win doesn't count as a win or a podium in terms of the official stats. And 203 points for McLaren and just 118 for Mercedes. Whilst Red Bull, despite having problems with their second car yet again, are on 92 points, which I think is pretty decent. Wait, does the restart at... Nah, mate. I think from what I saw from my timings, from the race start sheet, that it's going to start at like, I don't know, 4 o'clock local time, which is like 9 o'clock night time in Britain, 10 in Europe. It said just 2 hours to go until they start the race. I think I'm going to have to check. Just gonna check. That should really be a 9 o'clock nighttime start, which is going to be obviously an hour later on for everyone in Europe, depending on your time zone. So yeah, it's going to be a late start tonight, because I mean, for those who live in Australia, I mean, the race is going to start at like 8 o'clock in Sydney time. Oh, it will rain between 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Is that... I'm trying to think, is that our time over here in Europe, or is it Miami local time? East Coast, obviously. I mean, in one way or another, I have seen forecasts saying it's like 40% chance of rain. Okay, local time in Miami. I know what's his name, Sargeant must be watching. Manchester United struggle to play football yet again, because last time I checked, Brentford were leading 2-1, but then of course it seems to be a lot of teams are struggling to play well this season. So, but of course, yeah, I've got nothing to worry about for Derby County, because our season's over, done and dusted. Albon, I mean, all these penalties about unsafe releases and, of course, safety car infringements. I mean, I know they're trying to clamp down on anything stupid, but my God, it just feels quite harsh in the grand scheme of things. Having said that, Albon has scored 4 times in the opening 5 races this season. And compare that to Carlos Sainz, who's only had 2 point finishes. And look at that, Fernando Alonso, along with Lawson, Dowen, and his own personal driver contracted to his own agency, have got no points so far this season. Carlos Sainz is down in 16th. Okay, so I'm presuming the race will start at like 4 o'clock local time. I mean, there's bound to be rain there. There's bound to be like at least half an hour of rain at some point. Obviously, where the forecasters are never precise ever, but let's just look at the result of the sprint again. For those of you who don't know, we have had a smattering of penalties throughout the grid. These include Alex Albon, who actually finished 4th, Behrman, who finished, was it 8th? I can't remember. I think Lawson finished 6th or 7th. Did Ocon? No, Ocon didn't get a penalty at all, but obviously he finished outside the points. Obviously, that promotes Russell and Stroll up to 4th and 5th. Tsunoda, Kimi Antonelli, and Gasly all go straight to the points despite having finished outside of the top 8. With, of course, Tsunoda having started in the back due to a poor qualifying session, meaning that Red Bull decided to take setup changes. Kimi Antonelli had a bad start despite starting on pole position, dropped to 4th, and then he had to take avoiding action during the race itself to avoid Max Verstappen making an unsafe release, where, of course, Max was punished with a massive 10-second penalty for, well, really, I have to say this, Red Bull was so reckless in releasing Max when he did, for not seeing when Kimi was coming into his pits, and that could have been some serious injuries to their mechanics and some of Mercedes' mechanics. Gasly, I have to say, was somewhat fortuitous. I think he started 13th. Truth be told, Alpine don't really have the pace around this track, but he did get out qualified by Zhou in the feature race qualifying session, which is massively alarming for Gasly. I don't know what it is with Stroll. He just has that feel, that sense, that sixth sense in a way that he just simply does not have in a drive for some reason, and he keeps delivering results like this when it starts raining on a street track. It's such a Lance Stroll trait. You know, it's almost like the guy should have gone to rally car, should have become a rally car driver, because he's like, you know, in rally cars, you have to adapt your style because, of course, the course conditions could change dramatically halfway through. Whereas in F1, you really should be trying to follow a plan at all times. Carlos Sainz collided with the barriers all by himself and crashed out. I saw the replay and I couldn't believe Lando Norris, oh my God. I mean, when I saw the safety car come out the moment when Lando Norris was pitting, I thought, you lucky son of a bitch. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you having a laugh, mate? I know it's obviously it's only a 2-point swing between Norris and Piastri, but just imagine if this championship is decided by just 1 point. Like, everyone, like, people are going to look back at this sprint race and see this as the race that ultimately decided the championship. And that safety car, if Norris wins the championship by just a single point, wow. But anyway, I mean, the thing is, though, there's no way Piastri fans will necessarily point out as that safety car caused by Alonso crashing out after colliding with Lawson as the moment that could potentially win Norris the championship, because, of course, this is going to be decided over 24 races. It's pretty much like a football domestic club league season. Like, you're going to play at least anywhere between like 34 to 38 games, or if you're in the championship, 46 games. So if you're cherry picking one game in particular where a referee or an official's decision went against you, yeah, you kind of need to be a bit more honest, and you need to look at all the games as a whole. Like, this is not like an FA Cup, a Champions League, or a World Cup tournament where, of course, it's all knockout football where whatever you did in the previous round doesn't matter anymore. You start afresh. You start all over again, new. And it's not like NASCAR's silly playoff system where they keep resetting the points after a certain number of races, because I don't even know why NASCAR have their dash point system. It makes no sense, and I don't understand it. And it's not like I would watch it even if they went back to the normal system they had in 2003. Anyway, but Gabriel Bottas, so I'm going to look at where did he qualify. This is the qualifying order of everyone. It looks like there were no penalties applied, thankfully, unlike the sprint race results. Max Verstappen takes pole position by just 600ths of a second ahead of Lando. Kimi Antonelli, on the other hand, was actually really close by as well, within a tenth of a second of Max, and just 2,000th of a second slower than Norris. An impressive effort by Kimi at this track. Oh yeah, NASCAR's added road courses. Yeah, I still don't really fancy NASCAR, I'm afraid. It's just, I think the problem is with the stage racing they've added. It makes it feel more like a touring car weekend, but of course with NASCAR, all the stages last for at least an hour on average, so it just feels like you're just stretching it out all over the day. And it's like, just imagine if you have, like, I don't know, you're a dad of 4 kids or something, or I don't know, you just have like loads of responsibilities outside of work, and you have responsibilities out on a Sunday. Like, you're most likely going to watch, like, I don't know, maybe one stage race, and then you're going to probably miss out on your 2 other stage races. Like, I mean, the only type of people that have time to watch NASCAR now are probably, like, I don't know, young kids who are super obsessed with car racing, and of course, pensioners over 70 years old. That's it, really. Like, I don't even know how people can watch NASCAR anymore. And of course, you have to remember, it's 36 races per season now. Not 36 races, 36 race weekends, plus a couple of all-star events. But anyway, yeah, Piastri will start 4th once again. Piastri, like I did say, is not the most consistent when it comes to qualifying. 5th is George Russell, who I think, despite finishing ahead of Kimi in the sprint race, will be very concerned over his lack of pace, to be honest. Nearly 2 tenths slower than Kimi. Very, very worrying for car 63. Car 55, Sainz out-qualifies Albon again. Gotta say, Williams have probably got the most closely matched teammate partnership right now. Now that obviously Ocon and Gasly are no longer together at Alpine. Leclerc 8th, Ferrari and the Monegasque driver will be deeply disappointed with the fact that he's more than half a second slower than Max Verstappen, and also just under half a second slower than Lando Norris's McLaren. Ocon, however, in car 31 will be delighted to be qualifying 9th, as Haas, well, I've got to say, I think Ocon, despite a couple of dodgy performances at Suzuka and Bahrain, does sort of look like he's getting to his old self again. But I mean, the one problem Ocon has is that he's not the most consistent driver. Tsunoda qualifies 10th. Hello there, Andrew Bond. I hope you're doing well this afternoon. The race will start in 5.5 hours' time, as long as, of course, we do not have a rain delay. Tsunoda 7, more than 7 tenths slower than Max. Oh dear, that's not good. Isaac Hadjar just right behind him. Oh, and look at that. Look how close they are in qualifying pace as well. In both sessions, wow. Just half a hundredth of a second between the pair of them. I mean, Hadjar could be getting promoted to Red Bull Senior Squad soon. And then in 12th place is a 7-time world champion, car 44 in the Ferrari. Seriously struggling for pace. Having said that, he was only just over half a temp slower than Charles Leclerc. So realistically, I mean, there's not that much to choose between Charles and Lewis, but Lewis just simply wasn't quick enough when it mattered most. Bortoletto with what I'm sure is probably the best qualified performance officially of his career so far. And he outqualifies Hulkenberg. Great result by the Formula 2 and Formula 3 champion, Gabriel Bortoletto. Dowen, 14th. I think that's the first time he's outqualified Gasly at Alpine. And he outqualified him by nearly 3/10 of a second. Very impressive. 15th, Liam Lawson. Oh dear. Nearly 4/10 slower than Hadjar. Yeah, this is looking diabolical for Lawson, and of course he collided with Alonso in the sprint race. So there is that Alvin Lindblad kid in the Formula 2 ranks right now, and I think Lawson should be very fearful for his seat if Lindblad really improves in the junior ranks. Hulkenberg 16th. I mean, he's a good driver, but even the best drivers have their off days. Alonso 17th in what is probably the slowest car on the grid right now in Aston Martin. Oh, Jesus, wept he was. Funnily enough, he was only 7/10 slower than Max Verstappen in Q1, but if you take track evolution into account, I would probably guess that Aston Martin have a car that was probably approximately 1.3 seconds. No, 1.2 seconds slower than Max Verstappen at most, maybe. Hello there, Dane. I hope you're doing well. Red Bull, the place where career dies, just like Manchester United. Yes. Gasly 18th. Yes, Lance Stroll is the only driver to have scored points for Aston Martin so far this season. With all sorts of shenanigans going on with Alonso, I think he's had a couple of car problems, a couple of collisions. It's almost like the start of 2022 all over again for Alonso when he was at Alpine. Just having bad luck, but I'm sure Alonso will score a few points here and there, but 2026 is surely Aston's and Alonso's mission target plan. Ollie Behrman qualifies last. Oh dear, he was more than half a second slower than Ocon. That's not good. But of course, he's a rookie, so he will learn from this. Thank you for 2 likes, whoever you are. Let's look at the circuit. Look at this. Look at this. This looks like they drew. It's like a kid has been given like a flat A4 sheet of paper, and then he's been forced to draw the circuit around a bunch of Lego toys and circles and whatnot. Wait, are you saying that Vettel should take a management role at Aston Martin? I mean, I know people for some reason sit there think that because he's a charismatic character that he would be a great managerial figure, but does Vettel really want to return to F1, especially with all his beekeeping stuff and his race for women in Saudi Arabia activities? I don't know. I think it feels like Vettel set out to achieve what he wanted to achieve in Formula 1, and he is happy with it, with what he has achieved. Turn 1, turn 2, it's okay. I mean, do you know what this track looks like? It looks really cannily similar to Sochi in Russia. Yeah, Sochi. Just all those, 90-degree corners, wiggly lines. Vettel would be impressed. Not sure about that. I'm definitely not sure about that because, I mean, Stroll has benefited from a lot of good luck, like wet races, street tracks. Like, we all know that when when you like put Stroll on a wet street circuit, or alternatively a couple of power tracks like Monza and Canada, he usually is actually quite competitive. So I wouldn't read too much into Stroll's results so far, because when we visit circuits like Catalonia, Austria, Hungary, and all the normal circuits, Stroll tends to fall apart. So yeah. Turn 4, 5, 6. Oh, wow, boring is that. 7 and 8 is like a pair of corners from Singapore. 9, 10 is really just a couple of S's down the straight. Turn 11 is a heavy braking zone. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 are so generic, it's not even funny. And then, of course, it's a long drive down from 16 into turn 17, where there's also another couple of corners coming out of turn 17, back onto the start finish straight. Goodness me, let's compare this to the Sochi Autodrome, yeah? I don't know what the hell's going on, but so what it's called now? Oh, it's now called the Sirius Autodrome. That's interesting. Okay, I know Sochi, now known as Sirius, is now... Goodness me, look at that. That's even more of a block-shaped type of circuit. It's like you can tell that they had to draw the circuits around all the street markings, all the traffic lights, the junction turns and all that into one of the most blocky, square-looking tracks F1 has ever visited. I mean, it kind of looks like the Dallas Street track that F1 raced at back in 1984. Why is it called Sirius? What the hell's going on? That's interesting. I suppose they've renamed it because that's where it really is. Because officially, it's actually situated in the settlement of Sirius, next door to the Sochi city, but it's not that close to Sochi in reality. Yeah, let's not look at that. That looks terrible, to be honest. This is indeed the old Dallas Street track, everyone. It only took place once in 1984 as the 85 race was cancelled because everyone hated it, basically. It came back as a Trans Am race. My God, that's honestly one of the most horrible looking circuits I've ever seen F1 race at. Although, to be fair though, if you look back in the 50s, 60s and 70s, a lot of tracks had the same sort of shape, but the difference was that they were all at least like, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles long or something like that. Although, having read this here, it was only a 1.3 mile street track. That's pretty rubbish. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go straight here to 984. How long was it? 2.4 miles. Yeah, I mean, a 2.4 mile track shaped like that is going to be one horribly boring track to race on. And as it was, Keke Rosberg would win the race, whilst Nigel Mansell would famously collapse after trying to push his car over the finish line. look at a few old pictures. Look at that, he fell over, tried to push his car over the finish line, and why the hell do they have to blur out the old sponsorship logos on their cars? Like, I get that smoking is bad for you, but whenever I see a tobacco sponsor on an old picture, like, it doesn't make me think, oh my god, I want to light up a cigarette now. Look at that. Absolutely wasted. In the 100 degree Fahrenheit heat / 36 degrees Celsius heat of Dallas. This is your podium, everyone. Very, very low tech compared to modern F1, I have to say. No lighting boards, no sunshade. What looks like a pair of load of roses covered over the race victors' laurels. Oh, and look, there's the flags in the background instead of the electric scoreboards like we get nowadays. Everyone was better back in the day, folks. Look at that. Look how big that rear wing was. Massive rear wing. There is Nigel. Oh, what happened there? Oh dear, they blurred that one out altogether. Oh yeah, this is him at Monaco, where of course Nigel was leading the race before he crashed out. What a shame. Here's another picture of the podium. My god, it was absolutely roasting hot. Like, I know. I mean, the funny thing is that everyone has raced in temperatures similar to this, though, in recent times. So it's not like they would cancel the race if they had to race in temperatures like this anymore. So, and I think the drivers are a lot fitter and more acclimatized to the humidity. But of course, I know a lot of drivers back then, like Nelson Piquet, used to have problems with cramping, hallucinations, and fainting. And I think this was the first year Williams used Honda turbocharged engines with this horrible looking block-shaped chassis that Rosberg was driving with. Which I think you can tell by the shape of the car that car was not actually very quick at all. I am kind of struggling to find anything interesting to talk about because obviously McLaren are still probably got the fastest car, but Red Bull has still got the best driver in the grid first. This is the Williams of 1984, folks. A very, 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 very awkward looking car, if I'm going to be honest. And there is a slight marking of a Honda sign. So people watching, yes, thank you very much to those who decide to choose to watch Crystal Racing talk about F1. Of course, this is the standard street tracks, and oh dear, there's not a lot of spectators there. Can only presume it was practice. Let's look at the side pods, very low down, very little driver protection, and a terrible design livery with a splodge. Yeah, there is a chance. There's a 39% chance of rain, according to John, for today's race, and apparently it's going to probably rain between 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock local time. My god, that's one of the most awkward looking things I've ever seen, to be honest. Viking are playing football in 17 minutes time. Yeah, good luck to Viking. Stunning beer prices revealed as fans faced. Oh, look, rip off F1 again. For drink, steak sandwiches. Oh, the F1 version of prawn sandwiches, eh? And pizza. And I presume that is, I keep forgetting it, that Australian photographer guy who has an F1 channel. Let's see these prices, eh? Italy, what a name that is. $23 for a fried calamari. Wow, this looks like the sort of prices you have to pay to buy. This is like similar to the prices you have to pay in London to eat at restaurants. Like wow. £98 for alcohol. Oh, Kim Illman, that's his name. William Hill sponsorship. I think if you live in another country, you can't see the William Hill sponsorship. I think it's area restricted. Pizza, £14. £19 for pasta, 22 for chicken pizza. Wow. Budget turkey sandwich costs us $18. That's insane. Anyway, let's see what you've got to say, folks. Fries are fans threw pizza at Ferguson. Hello there, little Roman VR person. If you're a real person, please comment. Oh my god, what happened? There we go. Please comment again. Just say yes, hello, to see if you're a real person, because if you were a real person, you wouldn't just say hi with the same automated greeting. Yes, you are real. Okay, I'm going to take your word for it. Yes, thank you. VIP black cards, rude guess. Oh, and lonely fans model swarming the paddocks. Oh, well, what a surprise, eh? This is what happens when you sell your soul to Uncle Sam. What have I got an advert now? What? Oh, look, it's a fake harbour again. The hell's going on? Why am I getting this advert? I don't care. Oh no. Oh my god, look how tacky that is. That is a, oh wow, that's shocking. That's worse than Butlins, by the way. Butlins entertainment park that we have in Britain. Or Alton Towers. Lando Norris was taking a dump on the designers. Wow, I think it's safe to say if Lando's criticising you, you are struggling. Get out to my face. Ferrari F1 card made of 400,000 Lego pieces. Don't know what. No idea about the Alonso story. And hopes it inspires. Win his first ever race for the team. I'm not even sure he can do that, let alone that 8th World Championship. Let's see the Lego F1 car. I mean, it's pretty well detailed, I've got to say. 400,000 pieces. just something we put together. Ralf Schumacher has stated that he believes Lewis Hamilton should retire from F1. 5 likes. Thank you very much here at Crystal Racing. Rivals tip Verstappen for a sabbatical. And Ralph believes Hamilton will quit with a year remaining of his Ferrari contract. Yeah, the Ferrari livery was pretty interesting, wasn't it? I can go and show you the BBC article if you want. I mean, it was a big splodge of blue covering the car in homage to their HP sponsorship. Why are we getting so many old stories? We are going to go to the F1 section of the BBC website, so don't worry. 4 goals past... Oh, my... You okay? Oh, my goodness. Okay, let me get my composure again. I think Man United fans should take interest in finding a new sport to watch, to be honest, unless they want to become a Chelsea fan or something. Yeah, here it is. Oh man, Brentford are heading for the Conference League. They're making a late dash for those Conference League places. Gotta say it, the trim for Lewis Hamilton's race suit is pretty nice. I mean, that's really nice. Look at that. Blue and white. Blue on the top, white on the... Sorry. But the car design is a bit... Ugh. Not good. F1 Fanatics ran its... Oh dear. Well, you know, I mean, let's face it, Man United are more or less looking at the Europa League at this point. They don't care about where they finish in the Premier League. Yeah, he probably is. Yeah, well, but truth be told, I mean, does it really matter? I mean, Man United, I don't think... I think Man United and Tottenham are mathematically out of the running for, of course, the Champions League. I don't think they have any real chance of getting Europa League, in terms of finishing 6th or 7th. So really, and well, let's face it, I don't think either Tottenham or Man United want to compete in the Europa League next season regardless, because it's not really like... Well, I mean, obviously you can qualify for the Champions League by winning Europa League, but... It's not really that great a tournament, especially now that there's no more 8 Champions League teams dropping into the tournament halfway through into the knockout stages. Like previously, well, maybe there might be hope for the Red Devils. It's an interesting car design, isn't it? But it just doesn't work. It just looks really clunky. It just looks like they just slapped paint on it at the last minute. They all sat there thought, oh man, we need to come up with a special design to make our HB sponsor stick out. But it just looks very awkward. It just looks far too awkward. I'm not a fan of it. But the race suit is pretty nice, though. That's very nice. But it does sort of remind me of I say it. I think they did like a special car livery design for the 1964 US Grand Prix, but of course they had a dispute with the Italian Motor Racing Federation that season. Here it is. Look at that trim. albeit obviously back then there was no sponsorship visible in F1 at the time until, of course, Lotus got into a tobacco sponsorship deal with John Play's Special about 3 or 4 years later. Yep, another sideways image of the 1964 Ferrari when they raced in America with a rare livery. Of course, it's very much a throwback paint job. Obviously, this is the year when John Surtees won his only championship with the Ferrari team, and he also became the only man in F1 history, motor racing history, to win on 2 wheels and 4 wheels, as he was also he also won multiple motorcycling world championships in what is the equivalent of today's MotoGP, Moto2 and Moto3 series. And tragically, I mean, his son was lost his life in 2009 Formula 2 race at Brands Hatch, and of course John also passed away, I think mostly due to old age, if we're going to be honest, of natural causes. And he was married 3 times in his lifetime. And just so you know, yeah, the point scoring system was funny because, oh my God, you've got a long comment here. You feel like Hamilton and Alonso fans like to talk down Kimi and Seb in order to talk down their achievements. Yeah, but I think a lot of that's down to the fact that Kimi got battered horribly during 2014 by Alonso when he was teammates. And I'm trying to think. And Alonso was more or less even Stevens with Hamilton during 2007. And Vettel, yeah, Vettel had the advantage over Kimi, but that advantage, you know, it was big in 2015, but then by the time they stopped being teammates after 2018, it really had decreased quite a lot. It went from being like 0.3 seconds per lap to about, I don't know, on average, probably like 0.18 seconds per lap in terms of the gap between Vettel and Raikkonen. To be honest, it never felt like it just felt like as time went on, like as Kimi became more comfortable with the newer Ferrari cars that came after 2016, the smaller Vettel's advantage became, and it has to be said, I think you've got to realise, though, Hamilton fans in particular are really bitter about what happened in 2021, especially what happened at Abu Dhabi, and I don't actually blame them, to be honest, because what Michael Massey did was pretty quite bizarre and pretty dumb in many ways. Even if it was not intentional, it's still horribly incompetent what he did. Yeah, West Ham, well, I mean, those 2 teams I've got nothing to play for. I mean, West Ham, they could be in the relegation fight next year. Obviously, the Spuds have no chance of qualifying for the Champions League, so they're not bothered about the league either. And look at this. Graham Hill scored 41 points, but because of the drop points rule, his 5th place finish at Belgium was taken away and discounted, meaning that Surtees became the champion of 1964 because I think only the best 6 results counted towards the championship. And of course, back then, reliability was a lot worse in old F1, meaning that it was pretty common to see drivers break, even the top drivers have car problems in races and break down and retire. As it was, Graham Hill only retired twice during 1964, but he scored 0.7 times, so that's real tough luck. But of course, it's Surtees got 6 podiums, and Graham Hill only had 5 podiums, so tough luck, really. But none of them had as many retirements or non-point scores as Jim Clark, so it could have been worse for Graham Hill. And of course, Lorenzo Bandini was given team orders in the last race at United States, where he was forced to hand over second place to John Surtees to win the championship. I don't know, mate. I think in about 5 years' time, I think we'll have a real picture on how great Max Verstappen is. I mean, it does seem a bit interesting that ever since Dan Ricciardo left the team, he's not really had a teammate who's been able to challenge him properly. Although, of course, Max Verstappen was very much a rookie when he first joined Red Bull. Having said that, though, I think the best version of Dan Ricciardo, it was still, for me, a better driver than the best version of Sergio Perez. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if Max Verstappen manages to avoid having a top teammate before he retires anyway. So we'll never know the truth about how good Max really is. We all seen most of the current world champions and most recent champions like Schumacher have Rosberg as a teammate. Of course, Hamilton have a lot of top drivers as a teammate. Alonso had a couple of 2 or 3 decent drivers as a teammate, like Kimi, Button, Hamilton, obviously. Vettel obviously had Webber, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, and of course Leclerc as a teammate. So I think we all know what their true level is. But I think in Max Verstappen's case, he's so good as a driver. I think most teams would prefer not to pair him up with a strong teammate because of his capabilities of scoring so many points by himself, and the fact that we all know during his time at Red Bull, was his time as Ricciardo, having Ricciardo as a teammate, that it's probably best not to pair Max up with Ricciardo, with a strong-ish driver. I mean, yeah, the best driver pound for pound, but truth be told, it's not a good idea to ride him up. Yeah, but there's that crash again. That infamous crash at Baku 7 years ago now. 7 years ago, where Ricciardo and Verstappen launched into the back of one another, and I think that was the beginning of the end of Ricciardo at Red Bull, I'm afraid. I mean, the thing with Baku is that I think it's one of the worst tracks of the circuit, but the only reason why people thought it was good because 2017 and 2018 had a huge amount of crashes in it, which conned everyone into thinking that it was an exciting track, when in reality it's absolutely awful. I actually agree with you, say, regardless, that Max Verstappen is more or less the modern day Michael Schumacher in terms of driving, temperament, conduct towards other drivers to some extent. Yeah, I agree with you, Dane. Although I will say, I will admit to being very wrong about Carlos Sainz and comparing him to Jenson Button, because honestly, Carlos Sainz has committed some dumb mistakes in recent times, like his crash yesterday in the sprint. Where's Jenson Button? And yeah, I've got to say, I made a huge mistake comparing Carlos Sainz to Jenson Button, because to be honest, Jenson Button for me was a far better driver than what Carlos Sainz will ever be, I'm afraid. I mean, Carlos Sainz for me makes far too many errors. He kills his tyre wear far too easily. He's not really as much a smooth operator like his fans like to believe he is, I'm afraid. He's still a good driver, but he's definitely not an excellent driver deep down. And oh yeah, sorry, John. I know you've got off to watch Viking play football now, so I hope you are enjoying yourself, because I did notice that you've just left the chat. Apologies for not for forgetting about the fact that you're off to watch football, but of course I am too busy talking to Say and Dane. Of course, I know Dane lives on the other side of the world, so I probably won't be seeing Dane or / Keith Cheward later on in the chat when I do the live stream at very late on in the night. Because unfortunately, it's going to be the early hours in East Asia or Australia or wherever it says he lives. I know there's been some people who said there's a mistake that Ferrari jettison Carlos Sainz in favour of Lewis Hamilton. I mean, you got to realise Ferrari's stock price did rise heavily after they signed Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton move causes Ferrari's stock price to rise heavily. Okay, I'm not sure about those comparisons you've just made, but look at that. Hamilton causes Ferrari stock price to skyrocket by $7 billion. Yes, from a financial and marketing point of view, the New York Stock Exchange revealed a huge increase in Ferrari share prices, but truth be told, I don't really think... but in terms of performance, I do kind of think it might have been a bit of a mistake for Ferrari to take a 40-year-old Lewis Hamilton onto their team, considering the fact he is past his best in terms of qualifying pace. He's still okay in terms of race pace, but to be honest, Stewart or Brabham, that's an interesting one. I know Chazza HD used to compare Vettel to Nelson Piquet and how Nelson Piquet was very good earlier on in his career, and then Piquet then went to Williams, got outpaced by Mansell. Yes, Piquet won the 1987 championship, but that caused his valuation by other teams to drop. He gambled on a move to Lotus because obviously Williams lost their Honda deal to McLaren, but Lotus never designed anything of a fast car ever again, and it turned out that I think Piquet realised what an amazing job Ayrton Senna did during his 3 years at the team. And likewise, I think you could say the same for obviously Vettel when he got paired up with Ricciardo, and then later on Leclerc where he got outpaced, and frankly his stock dropped horribly and he was left nowhere to go by Aston Martin, where he promptly retired shortly afterwards. I have to say it, Ferrari signing Hamilton was a marketing move. That's it. Nothing else. Just pure marketing. 7%. Wow. 7% rise. Let's face it, like, I'm pretty sure Hamilton fans have paid an awful story, but I think you've got to realise they probably also did the move for the sake of just, I don't know, making money off their stock brand, really, and their merchandise. Look at that. Let's go to the shopping section. £40, which is probably like, I don't know, $60 US. 26.70 for a Hamilton 44 shirt. Ferrari in red. 56.63 on Etsy. Crikey, these prices are really mad. £21. Oh, look at that! They're already setting. Ferrari. Hamilton fans are already getting rid of their Ferrari t-shirts after just 5 races. Oh dear. Oh, look at this. Yeah, I think Hamilton just signed to Ferrari for the sake of saying, yeah, I drove for Ferrari when I was 40 years old. Hamilton retro inspired t-shirt. Oh god, that looks pretty. Oh dear, that doesn't look great, does it? I know it looks like a two-pack style / notorious Biggie style hoodie, but yeah, just doesn't work, does it? Oh, look at this. Oh my word, that looks pretty tacky. By the way, that's the 2007 Ferrari Scuderia Ferrari logo that Ferrari had when they had Kimi Räikkönen as a team. It was originally valued at £35-45. Now it's only £21.27. Oh dear. Oh, look at this, a baseball style shirt. I don't think it's worth the money, do you? Oh, look at that. Hamilton's name in the circle with 44. Oh, and there's still Carlos Sainz Ferrari shirts being sold, but a bit out of date in my opinion. Oh, and look at that. AliExpress has already reduced Hamilton shirts down to just £6 already. The opening 5 races have not been kind to the 7-time sextuple world champion. What the hell? How's that 200 quid? That's crazy. That's legitimately insane. Don't know how. I don't think anyone will pay that much for that, surely. Not the hardcore Hamfosi fans who will be like, Ferrari stabbed my man in the back. They sold him a dream and they gave him rubble in return. Or something stupid like that. Something incredibly teenage-esque. Oh yeah, I saw World F1 yesterday for like a couple of minutes. Yeah, he just pretty much said Lando Norris is overrated, like he always does. So, you know, he's very direct and honest in his opinions. He's not the type to fluff his words, I'll tell you that. Oh my god, I've had enough of looking at this. If you want to watch a replay, you can, but I've talked a fair bit. Obviously, we've all been having debates over who's going to become the #1 at McLaren, Norris or Piastri. I think both of them have got bigger concern that Max Verstappen is. He's a legend, but he's a cat that likes to wag his tail. Oh. Oh, I think we're pushing the boat out there. Will rain spoil Norris's beat to beat maxi pad tampon pads? I don't know. Piastri remains confident. Well, remains dominant, I beg your pardon. I mean, the thing with Piastri is that he's a very tough character. Like, he's not going to be emotionally affected by what's going on by losing the race win and, of course, getting out qualified by Norris yesterday. Yeah, let's not talk about that crazy character who takes being a Kimi Räikkönen fanboy to another level that I don't even find acceptable myself. So let's leave it at that. Although, having said that, I do wonder. He hasn't mentioned what he really thinks of Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Like, you know, I think it's proof that any driver named Kimi is automatically a legend of Formula One from what I've seen. Like, I just get that feeling that Kimi Antonelli will actually become Mercedes' #1 come at least probably towards the end of 2026, to be honest, or even sooner than that, because George Russell should be a very worried man. Like, he's not doing. I mean, the gap's very small already between Russell and Antonelli. Very small. And for Russell, it's worryingly small. It is petrifyingly small already. Alan Jones, mentally, he's quite a weak person. 1980 world champion, firing shots at the 25-year-old five-time the 25-year-old British five-time Grand Prix winner. And just so you know, Australia has only ever had 2 world champions, interestingly enough. Very interesting that obviously Alan Jones happens to be Australian. Yes, thank you very much, Say. I mean, I know at times there's a part of me that wants to lash out Fernando Alonso, but, you know, he's paid his dues at, you know, having had terrible calls at McLaren, and the fact he's still, I mean, he has not won a race since 2013 now, so it's kind of a bit pointless for me to get vindictive and angry with Alonso, because he's not really had an awful lot of luck in the past decade now, so. And to be honest, the part of me just feels sorry for Fred at this point, because it's just like, honestly, most normal drivers probably would have retired from F1 by now, but for some reason, Alonso just has this bizarre obsession to prove people wrong. You know, I don't really know why he's still in the sport, but it feels like he's just there to like prove people that he can still be competitive at the age of probably like 45 years old, even if he doesn't win another race, let alone another championship again. This is the man in question. By the way, he looks a lot. Well, my God, he's aged so much in the past 4 decades. This is the car he drove to the championship all those years back in Williams' first ever car to win a driver's and a constructor's title in 1980. Look how close the driver's feet is to the front of the front axle. Like, by the way, if you see the videos for the accidents that took the lives of Jules Villeneuve and of course Riccardo Paletti, yeah, the front end just tears off altogether. It's pretty horrifying, to say the least. I will leave it at that. This was the Alan Jones back I think 2002-ish. Okay, let's chill out. Let's not let's just see this again. This was what Alan Jones looked like back 45 years ago. More than that. Having said that, he was a big fella back in the 70s anyway. And of course, oh yes, how can I forget? Last year I did do a tribute. What was it? A free 30-year tribute to, of course, Senna and Ratzenberger. I completely forgot about it this year. I don't know what it is, but it does. But I mean, it has now been 3 decades since those 2 have passed, and it is becoming increasingly more of a distant memory as every year goes past. Having said that, there's still more people that will give in their tributes to Senna and Ratzenberger than they usually do for Bianchi, which is more reserved for my generation of fans, along with your generation of fans and the people in the chat, because of the fact that I think Bianchi was sadly the first passing of a driver that we witnessed with our own eyes watching the sport since I started watching the sport 23 years ago now. I mean, yeah, I mean, everyone has their own opinion. I personally believe that Prost was the better driver than Senna because Prost was more consistent. He scored more points. And, you know, I think there are statistics to prove that Prost was better at keeping his car on the road, making sure his cars didn't break down because, of course, the reliability issues that the cars in the 80s had were pretty prevalent. And, of course, you know, back then, back in the 1980s, being able to make a car finish the race was a very important skill, which is probably less so now because the cars are now much more reliable. I'm going to show you. Thank you for 6 likes. Thank you very much. This is quite a complicated model for the F1 drivers, by the way. I still do not understand how it works. If you want to read it in your own time, just type in F1METRICS with an S at the end, .wordpress.com. I'll just show you that again. What's it called? F1METRICS with an S at the end, so you know where to look at, where I'm looking at. I don't know, mate. I mean, the problem with Hamilton and Alonso is that they are now in their 40s, so we are talking about if, buts, and maybes at this point with Hamilton and Alonso. I think if McLaren had a car like they did last year and this year back in like 2020, Hamilton and Alonso against a pretty top tier version of a Verstappen in a fast Red Bull, I think they would definitely have a chance of beating Max. But last year, I think they have dropped off a bit now, and I think their age and their endurance levels might have dropped off a little bit. But that's really an if, but, or maybe from on my part. And giving the benefit of the doubt to Max, if I'm going to be honest. Obviously, there's all sorts of stats around years of experience where, well, the guy thinks that after 4 years, he can't really improve anymore. Yet, in this century alone, he is the only driver to have been unalive before our eyes. We did obviously have a couple of other incidents where we saw a former F1 driver, Justin Wilson, lose his life in an IndyCar race when his helmet was hit by another driver's nose cone, which was Sage Karam, who had a crash indirectly, and unfortunately the nose cone fell off Sage Karam's car at Pocono and it hit Justin Wilson in the head. Then, of course, 2019, in a Formula 2 support race at Belgium, Antoine Hubert lost his life and Pierre Gasly was inconsolable. I mean, according to this graph, a driver's peak comes around 25 years old and it carries on until about 35 and then it just slowly, gradually drops off. And yeah, so, I mean, when you hit 40, I mean, this is where, unfortunately, a driver's really does start to suffer. And Alonso, I think, is obviously an anomaly in this respect, and along with Fangio. But I think even Alonso's going to start suffering with his age because I know he's reported having back problems. Mika Hakkinen driving a mid-1970s McLaren M23, which won Emerson Fittipaldi and James Hunt a championship for each. I don't know. I think when Hubert was lost his life. I think the G-forces, the impact, because he got hit by 3 cars, like, and took the brunt of like 3 separate impacts. Like, I think it's rumored that he had an artery vessel that burst open because he got hit so many times that he suffered horrible, some sort of internal bleeding, which I think obviously they're all like. I think in 2013 at the Le Mans 24 Hours race, a Danish driver named Alan Simonsen had a crash where he hit his Aston Martin at like a really narrow 1 o'clock angle, and because he decelerated so quickly from like 130-40 miles an hour to 0 within like 2 seconds, well, not 2 seconds, like half a second or something horrible like that, it tore an internal blood vessel inside his like major organs, and he lost his life within like 20 minutes. It was just, I can only guess that's what probably happened to Antoine Hubert. It was like just like one of those, it just gets written down as like being like a chest injury or something like that, because I think it's usually connected to like the internal blood vessel inside your body, or major artery vessel, I beg your pardon, where if that artery is burst open, then very rarely can a doctor save you. Like, you need quite a lot of luck to survive an impact like that, I'm afraid. Oh yeah, what was I talking about? I was talking about Alan Prost's mechanical reliability record. And look at that. Prost was ranked ahead of Senna in the 80s. Oh yeah, the Dutch kid also lost his life at Spa-Francorchamps in a junior Formula race. He was pouring wet. I know there's been quite a few younger fans who have said that we should stop racing at Spa-Francorchamps, but we've continued racing at Imola and Suzuka since, so I don't find that to be a reasonable response at all. Although, of course, IndyCar did stop racing at that big free triangle Pocono oval track since 2019-ish. Because I know there was like another couple of incidents where Takuma Sato and Ryan Hunter-Ray had a coming together, and I think a lot of drivers just turned around and said, we can't race here anymore. It's too fast and too dangerous for IndyCar. I mean, a lot of stats do point in the direction of Prost being the better driver, I'm afraid. I know he didn't take as many pole positions, but he did take a lot of fastest lap out of Prost because he was so good at managing his tyres in a race. This is a massively long list, so I'm going to have to go all the way down to the top 20. Jordan Trulli is a top 40 F1 driver, folks. Heinz South Fredson is 24th. Yeah, I'm not a fan of DTS. Cupid's a 23rd. I take no notice of those type of people. Ocon is 22nd. I know people love Ayrton Senna, but I think they do exaggerate his brilliance a bit too much. Look at that. Ayrton Senna is ranked 21st on this list. Funnily enough, he is ranked in the top 2 for most of his career, except for 1984 and 1992, where I think he was driving with Toleman in 84, and he had a McLaren Honda that wasn't working very well in 92, and he only beat Gerhard Berger by a point. I mean, he was amazing in the wet weather, and he did score 33% of his wins in the rain. And he was look at that. Senna, Schumacher, Hamilton, and Jenson Button having a very high win wet weather win percentage. I think what's it? Michael Schumacher and Hamilton do especially well compared to pretty much everyone in F1 history. I don't know where Max Verstappen probably lies because this was done back in 2019, this list, so but Hamilton and Schumacher, Senna and Button really are the 4 outliers in F1 history when it comes to wet weather driving. Reliability, yes, this is something that turns out if you remove reliability as a factor, yeah, I know it's the anniversary of his passing, but dude, I've been doing football coverage, so I don't really have time to think about the Senna tributes, and I don't know, mate. No, I mean, apologies if you think that's not good on my part, but it is what it is. 14th. The only rises to 14th if you remove reliability as a factor. Alan Prost ranked 20th, and look at this. He was ranked in the top 4 for every season except for 1984, where, of course, he had a very unreliable Renault car. I think there is a stat somewhere that says that, look at this, Alan Prost's frequency of mechanical DNFs represented as red squares compared to his teammates. Alan Prost was an expert of making sure his car lasted the distance, because back in the 1980s, F1 cars with the turbo engines were horribly, horribly fragile. And of course, Senna, on the contrary, was more of a, not only a wet weather expert, but also a qualifying expert. You sat down and scored Vettel's season out of a score of 20. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, with the number of comments you make on my channel, say, and on Jazz's channel, I think you would make a very interesting YouTube channel if you just wrote out all the stats and statistics that you've picked up over the years, because you do write out a lot of stats, and I think you could have a very interesting YouTube channel, considering all I do is just talk rubbish all the time, and I don't actually, like, plan my videos out properly like other YouTubers do, which is probably why I probably only have just over 1,000 subscribers. I think the reason why Prost and Senna are ranked lowly on this sort of statistical data ranking list is because neither of them were actually as complete as some would say. Okay, I'm going to go to Laurie Rustogi's channel then once I've done this. Oh, right. Mechanical DNS are actually excluded from the analysis. So Prost was arguably even better than what some statisticians actually see it, or actually write him down as. What was it? Never knew he finally started uploading videos on his channel. I might give him a wave. I can't believe I'm doing this. See his videos. Oh, it's just career mode. Okay, that's it. Okay, fair enough. Looks like he's doing well. Oh, he did a few prediction videos. You know what? Let's just watch him for like 100 seconds.
Feel as proud as a peacock.
Nakita, look. Oh. Did you see that? Where is he? Knack. It's not Nikita, it's Knack. Alright, never mind, who cares? Nah, jokes aside, yeah, everyone likes this bloke. Kimi Raikkonen 15th, are you kidding me? Not really. Only 13th for Gasly. Only 13th. Gasly finished in the top 7, I think. Alonso 11th. Was this his first year at Ferrari? Oh my, oh wow, only 11th. Blimey. Really ranked Sainz down very low on this list. 10th Alonso. Well, Alonso did better as well. Oh, look at that. That's optimistic. Come on, really? Really? I mean, I know Stroll had a great 2020, but that was... Even I thought I was a bit optimistic at the time. Bit too optimistic, I'm afraid, with Vettel. Oh, no. Sorry, I've got to stop you there, Laurie. No bueno, no bueno, no bueno. Sorry. Well, I think the top 4 was pretty easy to... He did this on MS Paint, by the way. Sorry. Martin was too slow. He did get Williams and Alfa Romeo muddled up, but I mean, I think a lot of people did anyway. AlphaTauri, I think he underrated AlphaTauri. He underrated Alpine. Oh, he massively underrated Ferrari, who finished 3rd. He overrated Aston by a mile. I don't know. I mean, obviously, he got Red Bull and Mercedes correct, but he did. I'm trying to think who finished. I think McLaren finished 4th, so he wasn't too far off with McLaren, but did he predicted Aston Martin would finish 4th? Blimey. Oh dear, Laurie, you've come up a bit of a cropper here, but I'll give you a like regardless. Interesting. You know what? I'm just gonna have to. I'm gonna have to rub it in. Yeah, the upgrade package, because I know everyone was using an upgraded version of their 2020 cars, of course. The FIA did introduce some measures to reduce the size of the diffuser and the floor for 2021, which of course completely ruined the Aston Martin. Yeah, I know, Dane. I know. Don't take it literally. It's just a bit of fun and banter. let's be serious here. Ricciardo completely really went downhill at this point. Yep, the MCL 35M season. Oh, we're back. John, how's Viking doing? Let's see the scores with Viking, eh? Don't know, is there? Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you for reminding me about the Chelsea shenanigans. Is it like a live score update for Viking, or is it... Oh, it's just American football. Minnesota Vikings. Suppose there isn't enough international interest in Norwegian football, I'm afraid, but I tried my hardest, but Welsh TV is showing the Welsh Cup final for some reason, even though that's actually an amateur league, by the way. Yeah, I was like talking about Adam Prost. Oh, never mind, I re-uploaded the page. Oh yeah, this list is really weird because of course the likes of Ricciardo and yeah, good luck with Viking. I mean, Sondre Langas continued to play on to the end of the season with a real horrible injury, by the way, and it's only this today or tomorrow he will be heading for surgery to have fixed his thigh problem because he has contributed to keeping Derby up and surviving in the championship. So, you know, big thank you to Sondre Langas for your hard work and effort. As for Lars Jorge Salverson, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's currently injured anyway, but truth be told, I kind of wouldn't be sad if someone bought him in the summer from Derby and allowed us to buy another striker. So, you know, there's that. Rosberg struggled horribly early on in his career, but from 2009 onwards, he never finished outside the top 6 in the drivers' rankings, according to F1METRICS. Of course, if you want to go to F1METRICS, go to F1METRICS with an S at the end, .wordpress.com. Of course, Rosberg was a pretty consistent driver in his career. He wasn't necessarily the fastest or the cleanest or the most technically precise in his driving technique, but he did have a lot of mechanical and engineering knowledge inside his brain, so that did help him along as he got older. Solid career, maximised his potential, so even though he retired at just 31 years old, I think he can hold his head up very high with the career he's had, beating Hamilton at the end of his career. So in what was the only time he would ever beat Hamilton in any championship season he did, in any racing series he did, whether it was karting, Formula 3, or of course Formula 1. Turns out Rosberg would only lose out to Hamilton 37 times to 29, 30 times to 24 times in qualifying. And he already lost out by just over a century of points when it came to their points tally. So, yeah, very impressive. Hulkenberg somehow got 17th despite never getting a podium. Oh, yeah, he also beat Schumacher in his time previously. So, what a unique record Rosberg has. According to the F1METRICS, Hulkenberg is the 3rd greatest German F1 driver of all time, but I don't even think Hulkenberg would accept that result, because I think in his head he would think in order for him to be an actual better driver, he would actually have to win a few races and maybe a championship in order to be ranked ahead of Rosberg. I mean, if he wins like 3 or 4 races, I think he'll probably accept 4th place. But, you know, I think Rosberg obviously deserves 3rd place just for the default fact that he's a world champion. Oh, look who it is. It's the GOAT. The GOAT. Before 2014, he was ranked in the top 6 in 8 seasons. And in terms of being ranked in the top 10, he was ranked in the top 10 in at least 12 seasons of his 19-season-long F1 career. So I think that's pretty decent, considering the quality of drivers he faced. Look at that. Only Vettel and Alonso beat him head-to-head, since, of course, their head-to-head lines and sticks were coloured in red. Fairly equal to Heidfeld and Massa. pretty much, okay, I know this is back in 2019, but he still heavily outscored Giovinazzi, so yeah, I mean, he heavily beat Coulthard and Montoya. Yeah, I mean, as much as I don't want to make that analogy for Hulkenberg, sadly, that's true. Brady, I would love to see where Ricciardo's ranking is after 2024, because there's no way he's in 15th place at this point. No way he's ranked this high. This is... Perez 14th. I think his ranking probably has taken a bit of a tumbling after his stint at Red Bull, I'm afraid. Sainz, this is an interesting one. I think he's also dropped a little bit since 19. I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? 12th. This is a surprise, isn't it? Niki Lauda, 3-time world champion. It could have been a 4-time, 5-time, 6-time world champion, 7-time world champion, had it not been for that horrible, fateful day at the Nürburgring in 1976. Obviously, his first 2 years were absolutely diabolical, but excluding his final year in 85, he was always ranked in the top 7 for between 74 and 84 for 9 consecutive seasons he competed in the sport, so very solid. He lost out to Prost, but of course Prost was very good. Peterson was there as his teammate in the first 2 years. Bottas was also there at BRM and the March team, but he would go on to defeat the likes of, well, he shaded Watson and he more or less defeated Regasoni and Reutemann, so that's what kind of counts the most. By the way, this list was done in 2019 F1METRICS, so I used to annoy this guy in the comments all the time, and eventually just started deleting my comments because I just said this is a load of garbage, and he was like, yeah, you're banned from commenting ever again, Crystal. I don't know what to say about this, but this is an interesting one because first 2 seasons with Button were pretty dreadful, but for the remaining 15 years of his career, he was always ranked in the top 6, excluding his final season, where he was ranked 8th, despite losing heavily to Alonso. But truth be told, except for Zhou, Ralph, Fizzy, and Alonso, Button was always there or thereabouts against his teammates, including Lewis Hamilton, surprisingly enough. But I think Lewis Hamilton's mechanical issues and pit stop strategy issues kind of helped Button along in that respect. But I think this list also does prioritize consistency over outright speed, so it is a bit all over the place. Sterling Moss 10th. This is well deserved. And in the 4 years that after Fangio report, Moss was ranked as the best driver on the grid, and I think despite not winning a championship, I think it's well deserved. Well deserved. Obviously, the only driver Moss lost out in terms of being a long-term teammate was, of course, Fangio, which is fair enough. And the popular opinion of Sterling Moss being the greatest non-champion in F1, non-champion, not a world champion, is this guy Sterling Moss, who won 16 races but finished runners-up 4 times in his career, was quite literally the very best to do it. And I think this is one driver that I would accept as being better than Kimi Räikkönen, because he won 16 races in just what, 8, 9 I don't know. I think he did a few bit part races in 53 and 54, but I think in the 7 full season he did, he won 16 races, which is, considering how few races were held back then, that's an impressive record, driving for Mercedes, Maserati, and of course a Cooper and a Lotus ran by Rob Walker's independent team. Max Verstappen is actually already ranked 9th place by 2019. Look at that. That is bonkers. But yeah, he actually deserves to be ranked this high already. But at the age of just 22 years old, by the way, this is a walk that makes sense. And at the time, of course, he was actually the official highest ranked non-champion before, of course, he won it in 21. Yeah, I don't think we need to explain this one. We don't need to explain Max Verstappen at all. And of course, he does have the he also was the youngest ever F1 rookie at the age of just 17 years old. So, of course, I think that's a list of all the driver trajectories throughout their career. And I think Max Verstappen is on course to break quite a few records if he can carry on like this, as long as he can find the right car. Was ranked 8th. Obviously, it doesn't take into account what happened in this last 3 seasons, so I don't know what his ranking would look like, but at the time it looked like he could have a chance of beating Leclerc, but yeah, well, yeah, but you've got to see who comes ahead of him. Look at that. Look who's number 7, everyone. Car 44. Oh, controversial. Look at who's number 7. Having said that, up to 2018, he was the top. He was always ranked in the top 4. That's impressive. Despite, 2011 being a bad year, he still got 4th place. Oh, well, it is what it is. Top driver. Yeah, look at that. Patrick Tambay is in 5th place, ahead of Max Verstappen. Okay. What? I don't know. Is it Schumacher? Okay, he's ahead of, yeah. Albon was ranked 6th. Look at Albon. Wow. Albon was actually very good in 19. Longest winning streaks, 9. Okay, let's hurry up. Jim Clark is 6th. Just so you know, Jim Clark lost his life in 1968, double world champion from Scotland. First driver for Lotus. Ascari is 5th. Obviously, he only did 4 complete seasons. No, Senna's only ranked 20. I'm going to show you where Senna is. It's really low. By the way, this is a list based on statistics alone. No opinions. Fangio 4th. Look who's 3rd. Fernando Alonso is 3rd. Look at that. Phenomenal consistency. Look at that. Except for 2001, he was between 2003 and 18 always in the top 3 without exception. Even in years like 2004 and 2009 and 15, he's always. What the hell? I mean, I get it. Yeah, very good driver, but this is a bit. It's a bit too high. I agree, it's too high. But he does have the. But he never actually got outscored by a teammate except for maybe Jensen Button in 2015. But at this point in his career, but it is just based on statistics alone. So he's a bit. I don't know, mate. I don't know about that. Great career. Obviously a great career. Jackie Stewart, 2nd place. I don't know, it's a bit of an odd one. Jackie Stewart is always listed as one of the greatest drivers, but yet he almost looks a bit average by the great driver standards, which is an odd thing to say, but I think because Jackie Stewart is more known for being a safety campaigner than, I mean, he obviously had great performances like the 1968 German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, where it was absolutely pouring with rain. No one could see anything, and he won the race by 4 minutes. But arguably, I would put quite a few drivers ahead of this Scotsman. And of course, yes, here's your man, here's number 1, numero uno. Grazie ragazzi, well done, Schumi. But look at that. Towards the end of his career, he failed to make the top 5 at Mercedes, so interestingly enough. But of course, he was long past his best. The regulations had changed. Thank you for 7 likes. Only Rosberg ever beat him during his career, so, you know, but of course, Schumacher was a pensioner at this point. And I think the car was too understeery. It was more made towards like Rosberg's and Bud's style of driving. The tyres were a lot narrower and a bit smaller. Nowhere, you know, compared to Schumacher's preference for oversteer. I know it's a set of fanboys won't like it, but Michael Schumacher did redefine F1 in terms of preparation, professionalism, mentality, eye for detail, technical detail. Look at the gap between, like, I don't know, what was it? 1994 to about, I don't know, 2002, where, like, obviously 99 is an exception because obviously Schumacher broke his leg. My God, it's such like, on average, there was like a 2-point gap between Schumacher and the second best performing driver throughout those years. Like, not 2-point gap. Actually, yeah, it's on average a 2-point gap. Obviously, from 2003 onwards, look at that, the gap gets considerably smaller, which, of course, when the likes of Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen came into their prime. So, obviously, my claim to Kimi Raikkonen possibly being the best driver in the sport between 2003 and 2007 does actually hold quite a bit of weight. I know Kimi was never ranked as the best driver at any point on this statistics list, but Kimi was very close. Like, I'm not lying about that. I'm not lying, okay? I know I know some people like to scoff at my claim, but, you know, with better luck and with better reliability at McLaren and Ferrari, I think Kimi could have been a 3-time, 4-time champion. And that's not a joke. That's crazy. At least a dozen of his F1 seasons was in. I mean, fair enough. But I think Max Verstappen will probably get close to his level. Oh yeah, 94 Adelaide. Of course, he collided with David Hill. And 97 Jerez, where of course Charles Leclerc was not ranked on the list because he only done about 2 years at this point. So the Stoffel Van Dorn was ranked highly because he was about half a second slower lap than Alonso, but I don't know, mate. I mean, on raw performance alone, on his own merits, it didn't really convince McLaren of much, to be honest, especially with Norris and Sainz joining the team. Oh, my, oh, God, oh, dear, look at that. Look how, oh my God, look how far back he is. Don't want to look. But of course, Kimi did only about 19 races with Alonso, and in a car that was very understeery, lacking grip. Also suffered from oversteer problems simultaneously. I mean, Trulli really, wow, Trulli was so insanely quick, by the way. Even faster than Hamilton. Button had a driving style similar-ish to Alonso, hence why he coped pretty well with the McLaren. Fisichella, I have to say, really disappointed me. Massa wasn't quite his old self anymore. PK was surprisingly quicker than I thought he was. Grosjean is actually the slowest, but then he only had about 7 races as Alonso's teammate, so he couldn't really do much either. Likewise, Jacques Villeneuve only had 3 races, so I think Grosjean and Villeneuve are probably the least representative. This is not my list, by the way, so obviously, if you want to have an argument with anyone, have an argument with F1METRICS, not me. Don't argue with me over this list, because this is... I don't think judging drivers based on statistics is a smart move by any stretch of the imagination. Donahue is... Oh, 1 year peaks. Well, Donahue is actually a consideration. F1 greatest drivers on auto. That's a bit old. I think ranking Kimi around like 50 to 70 is actually pretty accurate on my list, because you have to remember, obviously, from 2014 onwards, Kimi really was. Fortunately, yeah, what happened from that point did damage Kimi's reputation quite a considerable amount, so I'm not going to argue with that. It's just that I think his peak deserves to be ranked a bit higher than people rank it between 2003 and 7. That's it. That's my only objection. By the way, Phil Hill is only ranked 132nd on this F1METRICS list because he only won 3 races in his career, despite being the only American-born driver to win a world championship in 1961. But of course, he was gifted the championship after 1 trip lost his life at the Italian Grand Prix. Vera, ranked 38th. He never won a race in F1, but he's ranked 116th. I don't know what to say about that. Seven Beloff, I don't know, he did start in F1 at like 27 years old. I think he was already older than Martin Brundle, so don't know how well this guy would have done in F1, to be honest, had he lived past 1985, but hey, if Bottas are maybes again, so apparently this is a... I don't know, I mean, with Max Verstappen, I mean, that list has got to change, surely. Surely, it just... I couldn't... I don't know, mate. Yeah, I agree with you, Say. I think Alonso... Oh, it's so hard where to put Alonso now, isn't it? I think Alonso's about to fall out of the top 10 with Vettel now, and I think Ascari. He won 13 races, but he did win his championships at a time when they were using Formula 2 regulations, and Fangio got injured and hurt and missed out a year. I don't know. That's not really enough in my book to be ranked as a top 10 great. You know what? I've been doing this for 2 hours, so I think I'm going to give my voice a break before I do the race later on tonight. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time in about 4 hours.